Well, it appears that there is some good news on the horizon, particularly if you live in Seattle in a certain district. There is a change that is coming. I was surprised by this. I did not picture this happening. I just didn't. But there is some news of a recent congressional announcement as an independent, and it's someone you know. Let's go ahead and bring this clip in here.
And Seattle politics is launching a new campaign. Today, Kshama Sawant announced that she filed to run for Congress. She is running for the 9th Congressional District. That seat is currently held by Democrat Adam Smith. Sawant served on the Seattle City Council from 2014 to 2024. According to the Federal Elections Commission document, her campaign is listed as an independent.
So Kshama Sawant, former Seattle city councilor. Don't forget that Kshama Sawant also started Workers Strike Back. She has decided to run for Congress as an independent. She is running against the Democrat in her district, who I guess apparently does sit in Congress, very corporate war-like. We're going to get into her announcement speech here, and then we're going to go through her list of demands. There's a couple of things that I do want to say. We're going to mention the pros and the cons, but I have to start off with this. I think Kshama is a fighter. Like I felt like when people like AOC were running, I thought what we were getting was a Kshama Sawant, and that's not what we got. Maybe that's on me for assuming the best, but I thought that's what we were getting. She has been able to win on the local level in Seattle. She led the fight for 15 and they won. She's been able to fight back against the landlords and won. They've been able to fight back against Amazon and won. So she knows how to produce results. At the same time, when I did see the demands, I will say this. I think that we are at a pivotal point in this country, and I feel like the demands should be more aggressive. I feel like they should be over asking and not just asking for like the minimum at this point in time. We'll get into all of that, but let's dive into her announcement speech.
Instead, my Socialist City Council office went to war for working people to defeat the strenuous opposition from both big business and the Democratic Party, and again we won. When I first ran for the Seattle City Council in 2013, I campaigned on a $15 an hour minimum wage. It was dismissed as utopian at the time. I also ran on taxing the rich and on rent control. Unlike the Squad and other progressives, I kept my promises. Less than 6 months after my election, we won the nation's first major city $15 an hour minimum wage, a wage that is now the highest in the country at $20.76 an hour, because we also won inflation increases. It was after our victory here that the fight for 15 spread around the country. In 2020, we won the Amazon tax, which raises hundreds of millions of dollars annually from the city's wealthiest businesses to fund affordable housing. So yes, it is possible to defeat Amazon even on their home turf. We won a slew of renters' rights victories, including limits on previously exorbitant move-in fees, a $10 cap on late rent fees, a requirement of 6 months' notice for rent increases, economic evictions assistance forcing landlords to pay 3 months' rent to tenants forced to leave due to rent increases of 10% or more, a ban on evictions in winter months, and a ban on school year evictions of children and public school workers. These victories sent corporate landlords into an uproar. One of the city's real estate lobbyists, brother of recent Mayor Jenny Durkin, complained that every dollar spent on the Seattle City Council was being wasted because of Sawant's army. Sometimes your enemies give the best compliments. We won because we didn't put faith in the utterly failed strategy of trying to reform the Democratic or Republican Party or winning over these politicians through moral persuasion. The problem is that with rare exceptions, they have no morals. Even if a given politician started out with good intentions, the leadership of their party ensures they don't last long. Either the morals go or the politician does. After I left City Council undefeated in 4 elections to launch Worker Strike Back, Seattle Democrats have dedicated themselves to trying to undermine or overturn our working class victories in Seattle. Worker Strike Back has been able to defeat both their efforts so far. Last year, when they attacked our historic minimum wage victory, and just last week, when we forced them to back off on their attempt to attack renters' rights by first undermining the city's ethics laws. This showed once again that when we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. When we fight, we win.
See, I think this is the difference between, I will say this. This is the difference between Kshama Sawant and someone like the members of the squad, right? Because if you were to compare her to AOC, the difference is Kshama has wins. She has a proven track record of being able to get shit done. Now, I know people are going to say, well, that's the city, that's the local level. And I get that and understand that too. But she still has a track record of winning. If you were to look at how effective members are in Congress, you'll see that when it comes to people like AOC and Ilhan Omar, et cetera, the data shows that they're not effective at passing legislation, right? So that's also part of the problem. I mean, yeah, they also want to remain within the Democrat circle and they want to have a political career. So they decide to sell out in that way, but they're also just not effective at getting legislation passed. So that's important for people to know.
When we fight, we win. Our fighting strategy is urgently needed nationally, including in the US Congress. Progressive Democrats like AOC and Bernie Sanders have long since capitulated to the corporate and warmongering agenda of their party. Working people need elected representatives willing to use their positions to build mass movements in order to end the genocide and all US military funding to the Israeli state, defeat the attacks on public funds for our basic needs, and win offensive demands like free healthcare for all, like by taxing the rich, or Medicare for all, and a $25 an hour minimum wage. This is why I launched Worker Strike Back. This is also why I am running for Congress against Democrat Adam Smith. Just as I used my city council election campaigns to build momentum for the $15 minimum wage and the Amazon tax, I will use my congressional election campaign to help build the anti-war movement and to launch a historic fight for Medicare for all. And just as I did in my decade as a representative of working people in Seattle, if I'm elected to Congress, I will accept only the average worker's wage and donate the rest of my 6-figure salary to workers and social justice movements.
Okay, this part right here is something that I wish more politicians would do, but they don't because they want that money. When she was city councilor in Seattle, that's what she did. She didn't take the full salary. She took a portion of it and donated the rest of it. I would like to see more people do that, especially those that can afford to do it, right? So that would be a big difference. That would make her stand out among the other Congress members, or among the ones that are say they're quote unquote progressive, that are basically sold out to the establishment. That would make her really stand out, because then people would say to AOC, hey, how come you not donating part of your salary? Things like that. Something to think about.
Contrary to the shocking and systematic underreporting in mainstream media, estimates from The Lancet indicate the Gaza death toll was likely over 335,000 by September last year and has likely since surpassed 400,000. At least 100 Gazan children are being injured or killed daily since Israel resumed its genocidal offensive in March. Gaza has been reduced to rubble. Neither the Democratic nor the Republican Party has a shred of moral credibility after having backed the Israeli state to the hilt. Both are fully responsible for what is in reality a new Holocaust. It would not have been possible without the billions of dollars they approved in funding from the US state. But we should not be surprised. Both Democrats and Republicans have been purveyors of endless brutal wars throughout their history. The Democrats and Republicans in the US Congress spent more than $14 trillion on war since 9/11. A third to one half of this money is pocketed by military contractors who in turn fund the campaigns of their favorite Democrats and Republicans. One such weapons industry treasure is my opponent in Washington's 9th Congressional District, Democrat Adam Smith, who has held this office since 1997 and who has blood all over his hands. Just days ago, on May 24th, Israeli forces bombarded the Gaza home of Dr. Hamdi al-Najjar and his wife, Dr. Ala al-Najjar, both physicians at Nasser Medical Complex. At that time, pediatrician Dr. Ala al-Najjar was on duty at the hospital, delivering care to injured Palestinian babies and children. And at that time, 9 of the couple's 10 children were killed and their sole surviving child was seriously injured. Dr. Hamdi al-Najjar was also gravely injured and died on Saturday. The blood of the al-Najjar family, along with the other 400,000 Palestinians, is on Adam Smith's hands. No politician who has supported this genocide deserves one more working class vote. Every single one of them deserves to be thrown out of office, starting with Adam Smith. Smith has never met a war that he didn't like. He has fully backed the genocide in Gaza. He has demonized anti-genocide activists as extremists and left-wing fascists, called for them to be arrested, and likened their actions to the far-right attack on the U.S. Capitol.
So another corporate Democrat, basically.
He holds the shameful distinction of being one of only 5 sitting Democratic Congress members who voted for the Iraq War in 2002. He supported the wars in Kosovo, Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Syria, Yemen, and the current bloody inter-imperialist proxy war in Ukraine. For nearly 3 decades, Smith has been bankrolled by weapons industry profiteers such as Lockheed Martin, Boeing, General Dynamics, Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, Palantir, General Atomics, and Kymeta.
How the hell is this guy even winning in Washington state? Like, that's pretty blue state for the most part. And I'm listening to all of this and I'm like, they voted for someone who supported the Iraq war? And you heard the Palantir connection, right? Interesting.
In 2016, he was one of only 16 Democrats who voted against an amendment to block the transfer of cluster bombs, which are horrific weapons used for mass indiscriminate killing, to Saudi Arabia for use against the people of Yemen, something for which he has been handsomely rewarded by Textron, the leading manufacturer of cluster bombs. In 2021, as chair of the House Armed Services Committee, Smith proudly championed a grotesque $768 billion budget for the Pentagon, making it the largest military budget in U.S. history at the time, and $25 billion over even what President Biden was calling for. Far from being a foot soldier, Smith is a general among the war hawks. He has helped lead the financing of the ongoing genocide in Gaza as one of the most influential members still of the House Armed Services Committee. Smith is a darling of AIPAC and the Zionist lobby, the weapons industry, and the billionaire class. AIPAC was his biggest funder last year, and he has received nearly $500,000 from the Zionist lobby to date.
We want to fast forward just a little bit because it's a long speech, but I want to get to the part where she talks about her race. Okay.
The U.S. Chamber of Commerce to try and derail even meager improvements in healthcare under Obama. Smith voted in favor of the shameful bailouts of big banks in October 2008 while ordinary people were left to rot. He then supported continuing the funding for Wall Street under Obama. Smith's position is that the Democratic Party needs to move further rightward and become more friendly to big business, and that position has only hardened over time. In December last year, appearing with a Seattle-based Trump-supporting podcast host, He railed against what he called extreme left policies, quote, of the Democratic Party, claiming that that's what handed the election to Trump. This was at a time when, in fact, Biden and Harris were trying to out-Trump Trump. He sounds more like a Republican than a lot of Republicans, one right-winger commenter remarked. Smith has even received campaign donations from Elon Musk's SpaceX PAC, not once or twice, but in every election cycle since 2010.
See, I told you guys that these people, like Elon Musk, SpaceX, like Palantir, they're donating to both parties. So you have politicians on both sides that are taking money from the same people that they're complaining about, right?
It is exactly this lurch to the right by the Democratic Party that has allowed Republicans to increasingly attack workers, immigrants, the anti-war movement, trans people, the poor, and other oppressed people. We aren't going to stop right-wing attacks and defeat Trump by staying silent and allowing Democrats like Adam Smith to remain in power. We need to use every tool available to us: mass protests, strike action, civil disobedience, and independent election campaigns like the one I am announcing here today to defeat warmongers and corporate politicians like Adam Smith. Support for Medicare for All is at historic highs. Quote-unquote progressive Democrats have been talking about single-payer health care or Medicare for All for decades, but every time there is potential to win it, they pull the plug. This is no accident. It is a cheap and easy talking point for progressive politicians like Pramila Jayapal to raise the flag for Medicare for All when the Republicans are in power, as right now, precisely because they know it won't go anywhere. In reality, this kind of empty lip service is a mechanism to deceive working people and try to keep them inside the Democratic Party. My independent socialist campaign for Congress will not only be committing to fight all out for Medicare for All in Washington, D.C., but I will also simultaneously build momentum for free health care through a Seattle ballot initiative. Worker Strike Back has just launched a national campaign called Free Healthcare Now, with the model of bypassing both political parties and fighting for free public health care paid for by taxing the rich through local ballot initiatives.
Let me pause here for a second. So it sounds like Kshama Sawant is going to be trying to get universal health care via ballot measure. I have no problem with that. I think people should try many ways that they can. And this also gives a shout out to ballot measures, because Washington State is that's a ballot initiative state. So they can do that. And this is one of the things I've been wanting people to do. And I know there's issues with funding and all that type of stuff, but that means that Kshama has been listening in some ways to for the ballot measures, like things that they can do on the local level. There are other ways to go about getting these things done.
In Seattle, we are preparing to file a ballot initiative in 2026, which would tax the city's wealthiest corporations approximately $5 billion a year, 5 billion with a B, $5 billion a year to fund free health care for everyone in this city. Are you excited? This would expand the Amazon tax that my city council office won in 2020 alongside working people and the Black Lives Matter movement. This is a fighting strategy to break through the current impasse. If we can win in one or more cities and states, it can act as a battering ram to win Medicare for All nationally. This is similar to the way Canada won its healthcare system by starting in a single province, Saskatchewan, before winning nationally.
Yep. She's right. That's what I think a lot of people don't realize, that Canada didn't implement universal health care in one big swoop. They started by province, and then it spread to other provinces to the point where everyone in Canada had it.
That fight also went hand in hand with the struggle for a new party of working people called Cooperative Commonwealth Federation. There is huge support for Medicare for All, as there is for most progressive policies, but year after year it goes nowhere. Because, as everyone knows, the Democrats, like Smith, and Republicans are owned lock, stock, and barrel by the health insurance industry, big pharma, and the billionaire class. And that's why, to win, we need to turn the tables on the parties of the billionaires. We need to build a militant, independent, all-out fight as we prepare the ground for a new party for working people. Working people are fed up with both parties of the billionaires. Under capitalism, it should be no surprise that those who own the vast majority of the planet's wealth also own the politicians. That's why I am a socialist, because we need a fundamentally different kind of society run by and for working people, not the billionaires. There is no reason in the wealthiest country in the world why everyone cannot have free health care. There is no reason that college should not be free. There is no reason that high quality affordable housing should not be available for all. But working people will not win free health care, a seat in the US Congress, or anything else without organizing in the millions. Our experience in Seattle shows that we can defeat the rich and their powerful political servants. I hope you'll join us in this fight. Go to kshamasawant.org to volunteer, donate, and get involved. Because when we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. Solidarity.
Okay, so that's the announcement there from Kshama Sawant that she is running for Congress as an independent. Again, I think it was a big surprise to me. But yeah, I mean, she's done a lot with Workers Strike Back. She's done a lot with previous organization with Socialist Alternative, which I think turned into Workers Strike Back, and she's been able to get some wins on the local level. Now, I told you I was going to mention pros and cons, and there are some things that I do have to add that I think should be added to the demands. So let's see what was tweeted here. Kshama for Congress, Workers Strike Back members have voted overwhelmingly to back Kshama Sawant's working class anti-war, anti-genocide campaign for U.S. Congress. Help build strongest anti-war, anti-genocide campaign in the country. So these are the demands. And I looked on the website. This could change. I don't know. But right now, these are the demands. In the genocide in Gaza, no military aid, no occupation. Agree. Free health care for all, tax the rich. We're going to pause here for a second. So I agree with free health care for all, but I think when you say we're going to tax the rich to get free health care for all, I want to explain to you what that means in just a second. And then we need rent control, make corporate landlords pay. Okay, so the first one, 100% agree with. The second one, free healthcare for all, tax the rich. I would have phrased that differently, because when you say free healthcare for all, tax the rich, that gives people the impression that the only way that you can give everybody healthcare is by taxing rich people. The government already has that money. So for me, I would not put free healthcare for all and you're going to do it by taxing the rich. So I think it's more optics than anything. Like, I still approve of taxing the rich. I voted to do that here in Massachusetts, right? And you can use that money for, other things. But I'm just trying to get the point across, the message that it sends to people, that the big question that always comes up is how you're going to pay for it, right? And I feel like even Bernie didn't do the best job of explaining how they pay for it. But the reality is the government already has that money. Medicare for all is cheaper than the private healthcare industry that we have right now. But when you say free healthcare for all, tax the rich, that's going to send an impression to people that the only way you're going to be able to pay for that is by taxing rich people. And then people who are already skeptical will just say, well, see, they don't know how they're going to pay for it. They can't pay for it without rich people. So I would frame that differently. We need rent control, make corporate landlords pay. I would make that bolder. I would say housing for all. We need housing for all. What worried me a little bit when I looked at the demands, number one, I noticed same thing. And I'm telling you, I don't waver on this. And you guys been with me for a while. You know how I am. I don't see a Black agenda. And I'm gonna keep it real. Adam, that Kshama is running against, he's the Democrat, right? So most of the black voters are going to vote for the Democrat just because Democratic Party, or they're registered to vote Democrat, regardless who that candidate is. If they see, if you don't have a black agenda, but he has one that's more like virtue signaling, because that's what the Democratic Party likes to do, like the virtue signal to black people, they may ask, well, why would they not continue to support him? You see what I'm saying? For socialists, and I have to say this, when we talk about socialism, when we talk about a black agenda, reparations is a part of that agenda. And if you are for the workers, then you have to know that there's a debt that is owed to descendants of slavery in this country. That's free labor. People weren't compensated. People weren't paid. So what worried me when I looked at the demands, and maybe this would change, but I feel like we're at a pivotal moment where we need to be bolder. We need to demand more, right? I keep hearing people talk about fight for 15. No, why are we fighting for 15? That's long gone, long gone. That was Bernie 2020. Why are we fighting for 15? The minimum wage, if you look at inflation and you adjust for inflation, right now, the minimum wage should be almost at $40 an hour. I kid you not. I'm not exaggerating. If you look up the data for inflation, cost of living, add all this stuff together, it should be at least $40 an hour. If we look at the Out of Reach report that I've shown on the show multiple times, it goes to show you people can't live off $15 an hour in the United States. So I feel like we need something bold. And I feel like we should be over asking instead of asking for the bare minimum. What I always tell you, always ask for more than what you want, because a lot of times you're only going to get part of that. So like if you want a minimum wage that's going to be $20, you probably need to ask for 40. If you want an actual $15 minimum wage, you probably got to ask for like $25, $30. Like I'm not kidding. You have to over ask. So I think the problem that I have, like, once again, is that I feel like it's just not bold. Like, I agree. Let me pull this back here. I agree with ending the genocide in Gaza, no military aid, no occupation, 100% agree. Free healthcare for all, I agree. We need rent control. I agree with rent control. But at this point right now, I'm seeing that what happened to housing for all? Like this is why I get it. Like, yes, we do need rent control, but I'm starting to feel like some of the demands that we've had over the years, I feel like they're starting to become watered down. One of the reasons why I voted for Jill Stein is not just because of the Gaza situation. I voted for Jill Stein because Jill Stein had a black agenda. Jill Stein had reparations a part of her campaign. Not only just that, but Jill Stein addressed Cancer Alley and how to solve it. And the reality is, in order to beat the Democrat candidate, one group that they tend to get in particular is Black American voters. There aren't a lot of Black people in Seattle. So the few who are there and do vote, for the most part, are used to voting Democrat. There has to be something about you that you're offering to the Black community that the Democratic Party isn't trying to offer. And I just think at this point in time, I think we need to be bolder. Like, I'm sorry, but I love Kshama. I think she's great. I think she's, a great fighter and stuff like that. And maybe she will add more things. But I think 3 demands, in my opinion, is not enough. And I think we should be screaming to the rooftops right now with everything that's going on. We should be demanding more. We should be demanding free public college. Like, even some of the progressive candidates' campaigns, they have more demands than Kshama does for hers right now. So I'm a little bit confused. I just think it needs to be bolder. And I think that could really garner up more energy. But I'll tell you guys, like, when it comes to the Black community, remember, the Democratic Party mainly has a lock on the Black vote. So if you're running outside of the 2-party system, there has to be something about you that you're addressing that you actually want to fix or help with the Black community that the Democratic Party has been virtue signaling about and never did. I really do believe, and I've said this before, I want Black people to register as independents. I really do. but you have to also be offering something. You had to speak to the needs of said community. Now, some people will say, well, we don't want to, single out different groups and all that stuff. But we have been. We've been doing that. That's all electoral politics. We've been singling out different groups. It just seems like there's one group that's just seems to not get mentioned. So that's my thing. I think it should be bolder. And, I'll be happy to have this conversation with Kshama to explain to her, like, no, if you're a socialist and you're for, like, the workers and all that jazz, then reparations has to be a part of that discussion, because that is unpaid labor. And we talk about the land that has been stolen from Black people, which I just did a video about that, the land that was stolen from us, the homes that were taken from us. No, that's unpaid labor. I say the same thing for the indigenous community, and we talk about land back. So these things have to be discussed. That's my take on that. That's what I would say. Let's get to some of the comments here. Oh, my day said Eric's 11 demands. Yeah. And, I think Eric's 11 demands are fire. Like, I really do. And if a candidate had those demands, I'd be like, a grassroots candidate had those demands, they weren't taking corporate money, I'd be like, yeah. Like, but we got to be bolder nowadays. Like, at this point in time, we can't. But I have no problem having that conversation with Kshama. Like, I would explain to her, like, after looking at, if I'm comparing this to other congressional campaigns, I feel like it should be more than just 3 demands, and it needs to be bolder. Thank you for the super chat, Jasmine. Hope we have an independent wave in this country, one that comes from the working class. We need to be like Kshama. No one will fight for us but us. Thank you, Chris. Love the show. I appreciate the realness. Oh, thank you, Chris. Robbie said she lost the audience. You can't bring up Gaza first and not bring up Black issue. See, this is what I was, again, like, Black people are not, we're happy to stay home. Like, I'm telling you, we're not in a rush to go get in line to vote. And thank you, Covert. Power concedes nothing without a demand. Nobody is owed your vote, regardless of who they are. Make demands. I agree with you, Rabbit. I agree. Yeah, it's like I said, like, we need to demand more. Eric put this up here already. Again, 11 demands. Real change starts with demands. Healthcare for all, a minimum standard of living for everyone. In the wars. That's another thing. Like, instead of us just saying, in the genocide, in the war in Gaza, we need all the wars. We need in all of them, right? MCDS, money, corruption, demand solutions. Follow the money always. Call out the corruption relentlessly. Have robust demands. Dial them up to 11. Good demands lead to good solutions. Both major political parties are thoroughly corrupt and only serve the interest of billionaires and large corporations. Educating people about this difficult reality is a crucial first step. But what is step 2? The 11 demand strategy proposes the formation of a mass movement centered around a coherent, concise set of demands, and the convergence of direct action, mutual aid, and electoral efforts to achieve a better world. Everyone knows that big money and corruption are running the show. It's time for the 99% to be clear about our demands and insist on real solutions. That's right. That's right. Eric, can you put the link to 11 demands in the chat? Yeah. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.